Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video yet again talking about pre-washes. Now, you guys know if you've been watching this channel for a while, I absolutely love my alkaline pre-washes. Labocosmetica Primus 2.0 and Built Hamber Touchless are two of my absolute favorites. Both different use cases here of how I actually use them. Primus 2.0 over here, I use in a foam cannon. Touchless over here, like using in an IK sprayer. But this also got me thinking about what other type of pre-washes are out there. And I actually stumbled across two that I really wanted to test because they have some interesting claims, and both of these are actually pH neutral. That is Labocosmetica Neve over here and Geon Foam, which is not pH neutral. We're going to talk about that in a second because some very weird marketing claims going on here. But at the end of the day, I want to see if maybe potentially a pH neutral pre-wash can actually be just as effective and in fact safer for actually pre-washing your car. Welcome back to the channel. Let's jump into it. Hey everyone, thanks for being here today and super excited to dive into this and check out how something like a pH neutral foam pre-wash can do against its alkaline brother, to see if this could potentially be as effective as a cleaner and potentially, like I said, actually a safer cleaner overall. Importantly, for those of you who are washing in direct sunlight or outside in general, this could actually create a safer wash. But I want to back this up first before we dive into the products here. Talk a little bit about what a pre-wash actually is. Now, my whole thought process with a pre-wash, and this is really the consensus of the general detailing community, is a pre-wash is going to create a more effective and importantly a safer wash for you. So before you ever even rinse the vehicle, before you touch it with a wash mitt, spraying something on like an alkaline pre-wash is going to go on the surface of a dry, cool to the touch vehicle and start breaking down all that organic material, the dirt, the grime, the bugs, the traffic film, the road film, all that nasty stuff that's sitting on the surface. And after that has been sitting on there, you're going to rinse it off, refoam the car, and then start doing your contact wash. The whole purpose here is to get as much dirt and grime off the surface so that we're not scrubbing it into the paint, creating micro marring and surface scratches on there. And typically when you think of these, you are thinking of alkaline pre-washes because an alkaline product is really meant to help and aid break down that traffic film, the organic material, or something like a pH neutral cleaner. Yes, it can still have great detergents, surfactants in it and emulsification in it. It still can do an effective job, but you do have a little bit more punch here. Now on the flip side, an acidic cleaner is really meant to break down those mineral deposits, all the lime scale you might have on your vehicle, and unclog a ceramic coating from all of the other crud that is sitting on the surface. So that got me thinking, and a lot of you guys question whether you should be using a alkaline pre-wash every single time you wash your car. And that's kind of a hard thing to answer. Now, in general, if you are diluting these down properly, using them as intended and not letting them dry on the surface, they're going to be totally safe. I never recommend using either of these in direct sunlight. Yes, you can if you're quick, efficient, you're making sure you're rinsing it properly, but do understand these can actually damage some of the surfaces on your car if left to dry. Less so Primus 2.0 than Built Hamber Touchless. Matt Mormon actually created a video. It was a really cool video where he washed, I think, 6 or 7 of his cars in his driveway, bright sunny day with only Built Hamber Touchless, and it actually ended up staining one of his car's window trims. I think actually 2 of them, but importantly his Model 3 Performance, which this is a pretty common thing that happens with a lot of these cars because that is an anodized piece of aluminum. The reaction here using an alkaline soap actually creates this rainbow staining effect on it. You'll see this a lot for people who take their cars through touchless car washes where they're using very strong alkaline chemicals. That is what is actually causing that. So that got me thinking about a pH neutral pre-wash. Can this actually be as effective? And they claim Neve over here is just as effective as an alkaline one. So we're going to be putting that to the test. But this also brings up the topic of another product that is claimed to be pH neutral and in all honesty really pisses me off, and that is Geon Foam over here. Now I accidentally, well, I didn't technically accidentally because I ordered this, but I didn't realize what this product was. So I was actually doing a car shampoo test. And I was testing a bunch of different ones. I had Geon Bathe in the car. I didn't really read much on Geon Foam, but I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll use foam and it's going to be better in a foam cannon versus a bucket, or Bathe is going to be better in a bucket. So I figured I'd try this, and then I unboxed it and I realized this is an effective pre-wash. I'm like, okay, I'm an idiot, but maybe I can use this to test it against other things. Then I started reading a little deeper on the side of this where it says it's highly concentrated, pH neutral, and a long-lasting foam. And I was like, okay, this could be actually pretty interesting. That led me down the road to find Neve, and I wanted to do a head-to-head test. But then, of course, as I usually do, diving into the nerd data, went through the SDS sheets, and over here, Neve comes right in at a pH of 7. I actually tested this with my own pH tester, perfectly neutral here, not pH balanced, not alkaline, perfectly neutral. Then I popped open the SDS sheet of Geon Foam, again claiming to be pH neutral. What do you guys think the SDS is? Yeah, pH of 13. How that is pH neutral, I have no idea, because they are essentially claiming that once you dilute that product down in a foam cannon, however you're using it, it's going to become neutral. That's not actually how the pH scale works. That is actually logarithmic rather than linear. So understand, something like a pH of 8, when you jump to a pH of 9, that product is 10 times stronger than the outgoing one. If you go from an 8 to a 10, that is 100 times stronger. They do not understand what's going on here. So it really frustrates me that they market this product as pH neutral, when in fact this is a very, very strong alkaline. Now, I actually tested this with my meter. It comes in at a 12.3. The interesting thing, you see this product right here, Primus 2.0? Do you see that word right there, alkaline? So interestingly enough, the SDS sheet says greater than 12. I tested 11.7. This pH neutral cleaner is stronger than an alkaline cleaner. How is that frickin' possible? Well, it's not. And that is why we're not going to be testing Geon Foam. They need to figure their stuff out, because I found the same thing on Geon Bathe, where the SDS sheet claims a pH of 8. Their website claims a pH of 6, but it also says that it's pH neutral. It's either one, this, or the other. Understand pH balance, that's a different thing. They really need to figure out their marketing on these products. So we're not going to be testing that, but I do want to test these over here. And this also led me to some frustration in terms of dilution ratio. So Primus 2.0 over here, very simple to do. They give you this whole thing on the back of how you can use it on wheels, on tires, on different areas like bugs in something like an IK sprayer. And they also tell you with the foam cannon for winter dirt and grime, 1 to 5, and summer dirt and grime, 1 to 10. Very simple, easy to do. Neve over here, very different. So if I actually look at the back of this, I'll show you guys what it says. In English, it says Neve is a prodigy of chemistry, a neutral foam shampoo with power compatible to an alkaline one. Great, that sounds really cool. Bold marketing claims there. As I read through this, it doesn't tell me anything about the actual dilution until I get down to German, of which I took 4 years of German. My mom was a German teacher. I still can't read it. And it says something 1 to 25 to 1 to 50. So this led me down the road of going on to Labocosmetica's website, and then I got more confused. So first things first, they say to dilute in a foam cannon 1 to 25 minimum to 1 to 50 maximum for your foam cannon. Okay, so understand that you can use it at strongest 1 to 25, at the weakest 1 to 50. Now, they first off have minimum and maximum confused there, but then what confused me more is I look down, they have nebula sprayer listed, which is something like an IK sprayer with a foamer over here, which they say to use at 1 to 20. Okay, so if you actually think about this, if you're using it in a foam cannon, naturally once this actually hits the car, that's going to be more like a 1 to 100 versus a 1 to 20. So why would you be using less chemical in a foam cannon than in an IK sprayer? That makes no sense. Then you actually look below that in between those two, and it says for sturdy dirt, exterior 1 to 5, medium dirt 1 to 10. Now, is that supposed to be in the nebula? Is that supposed to be in the foam cannon? It doesn't specifically say. But here's the weird thing. I did some more and more digging on this, because this is just like, okay, I need to figure out to show you guys how to actually use this product. And I found an old label, or their old bottle here, which I'm hoping is the same exact chemical inside. I can't actually tell if it is, where it doesn't even mention now the 1 to 25 and 1 to 50. Now they do say this is super concentrated, but still, the dilutions don't make sense to me here. Now, on that sheet, it actually says to use in your foam cannon for strong dirt and grime, 1 to 5, for medium dirt and grime, 1 to 10, which is exactly the same as using it over here in Primus 2.0, and then in your nebula, using it 1 to 20. So I don't personally know what exactly you're supposed to use this as. Maybe because it's pH neutral, it doesn't necessarily matter as much. You can just get more and more foam. So my plan, what we're going to do is I'm actually going to make up 3 foam cannons of this at 1 to 25, 1 to 10, and 1 to 5. And we'll compare those three, and then we'll probably take the strongest version of that and compare it to Premise 2.0 at a 1 to 5 dilution ratio to see if the pH neutral can go in with the alkaline pre-wash and be just as effective. Now, that could all be solved, number one, by putting better dilutions on the actual bottle, more like Premise has here. And in fact, I think this is really important, and I really appreciate how Built Hammer does this by giving you the panel impact ratio. Now, panel impact ratio, no matter what foam cannon you're using, what pressure washer you're using, or using it in an IK foamer, regular sprayer, is going to be exactly the same. So your PIR on this product, least aggressive, 0.5%, up to 2%. So no matter what you're using, you're going to get the correct dilution ratio. With stuff like this, you are not going to get it correct. And I personally think it's really important to have that when we're using especially alkaline pre-washes. So that's something I would like to see Labocosmetica do, but please just make it easier to figure out what the actual dilution should be. I shouldn't have to go searching for 25 minutes, reaching out to other detailers and watching videos because they still all use it at 1 to 25, but then also test a nebula sprayer at 1 to 20. I don't understand how that makes any sense. So with all of that being said and my frustration with this, let's head over to the car and see how it actually performs. Now, I do want to mention as well, I did find one of Labocosmetica's distributors actually on an Australian website that breaks down the dilutions way better than Labocosmetica did on their actual website. So they say for their maintenance washes, 1 to 25 to 1 to 50. That makes a lot of sense. For medium dirty vehicles, 1 to 10. For very dirty vehicles, 1 to 5. Now, we're going to be cleaning up the Wifey's EV9 here. This thing is kind of disgusting. No, it's not caked in dirt and grime, but it is pretty darn filthy. So this will be a pretty interesting test just to see how these work. Yes, I wish we had winter dirt and grime. It's the middle of frickin' summer. It's almost going to be 100 degrees outside today. So I've calculated all of these out. So for 1 to 25 over here, for a 500 milliliter total of solution, we have 19 milliliters of Neve, 481 milliliters of water. For 1 to 10 over here, 45 milliliters to 455 milliliters, and then 83 milliliters of Neve for 417 milliliters of water. Again, this could all be easily taken care of. And yes, I pulled back this label and everything. If they just put the flippin' dilution ratios properly, like they have here or on the website, you can see dilution with dispenser. It goes through all the different ones. Dispensing with foam gun, Why is that so complicated to put on this? So let's get these ready. We're going to go on the driver's side. Shout out to Mr. Oliver. He's fine in there. The AC is on, and we're going to test these products out. Now, it doesn't come through on camera as much as it does in person, but the side of this car, quite filthy. I've opened up the door to hopefully show you guys some differences here. Another note here, we are using an AR635. These are not known to have amazing snow foam on them, but again, I use Premise 2.0. It works perfectly fine. Pre-wash is not meant to have a shaving cream style snow foam. We want snow foam on there that is going to get on the surface, bring all that dirt and grime off. So let's test this out, starting off with our 1 to 25. Next to that, we're going to go our 1 to 10. And then our 1 to 5. Okay, so you guys can clearly see the differences between the dilutions here. So 1 to 5 here, very, very thick. Now, they also say in their recommendations here to leave this on for 5 minutes. Now, we'll kind of see how that goes. I would definitely tell you 1 to 25 with an AR635, probably going to need to boost that up. This, again, guys, I'm just trying to emulate the problem with just giving basic general dilutions like this. If I had a panel impact ratio, I could get this exactly how I need it here. Now, clearly, you're going to have less solution over here. You're going to get less overall snow foam, but still at 1 to 25, it put a decent amount on there with the AR635. This, to me, looks about perfect. That 1 to 10, I would say this car is in the more medium dirty instead of super, super dirty filthy. But again, you can also see the differences here. So I want to let this sit on the car. We'll rinse this off. I'll do a touchless dry on it. Do understand as well, this This has Geon wet coat on it. That's all this car has ever had. It's not a full strength ceramic coating. This is more of a sealant, but it's really interesting to see the differences between all the soaps there. Okay, so this has been sitting for the better part of 3 minutes here. You can see still up top here, this is where the wet coat was getting rid and dispersing water quite a bit, where the lower part of the doors definitely have more dirt and grime. But again, this is that 1 to 25. Here you can clearly see that 1 to 10, and then well over here that 1 to 5. What's interesting about this, very different from Primus 2.0. I feel like Primus 2.0 really bleeds down the surface. So we'll be able to test that as well. That's why I wanted to leave some of the dirtier areas so we can do Primus versus Neve here, that Alkaline versus pH neutral. But I'm gonna let this sit for a couple more minutes. We'll rinse this off, dry it, and see how they look. All right, now time to rinse. Okay, so I just went through, I dried the car. Of course, I didn't touch it. We're using the blow car dryer over here just to dry off the surface without touching it to affect our results. So a couple of things I can tell you here. Definitely still quite a bit of crud left on the 1 to 25, and I can definitely see a step change down the side of the car. Now, this was not horrendously bad, of course. We're going to do some more testing. Just stay tuned for this. But as I move down, the 1 to 10 section, noticeably cleaner than back here. You can just see right there, it definitely changes. Now, it's not 100% perfect, of course. This car's got some mineral deposits. This thing has been sitting out baking in the sun with all this crap all over it. Unfortunately, my wife's car just gets destroyed. Now, back here is actually where I see the biggest difference, of course, this being at the strongest dilution, the most amount of cleaning power. That makes sense here. Now, you can also see quite a big difference where that soap ended here. So you can go from there into there, quite a big difference. Now, the next test I want to do is actually coming back to the dirtiest part of the car. You can see quite a bit of filth back here just in all the nooks and crannies. So what I want to do is use Neve and Primus at their strongest dilutions at 1 to 5 here. What we're going to do over here on the side doors is we'll use them both 1 to 10 here, compare the difference there. But also on the front end here, I want to use them at their strongest because these bugs have been sitting on here a long time. We can split this half and half, compare the differences between them. So definitely, as it makes sense, the higher the dilution, the more cleaning power here. But now that we understand that, let's see Alkaline versus pH neutral. Okay, on the back of the car, on the driver's side is going to be our Primus 2.0. I'm going to try and split it straight down the center, and then on the right side, Neve. Okay, so very immediately see a big difference in what you would consider concentrations of the soap. Very different snow foam on this. Look how wet Primus is over here. You can already see how it's very much dripping this down. This has a lot more cling to it. Now, understand this could actually be beneficial because this is pH neutral. This is fine sitting on the surface more, leaving that there, where this is naturally going to drip off the surface quite a bit. But this is still going to emulsify dirt, pick it up, lift it off the surface, suspend it in all of that foam. But it's very cool to see the differences between the two of these and just see how they work throughout here. All right, so let's bring you in a little closer because you can clearly see a big difference here. So Primus, again, this is very traditional of a alkaline pre-wash, has this very, very wet look to it. You can see how tight those micro bubbles are. Then you come over here to Neve and it's very different, more aerated. But again, these are same exact dilution ratios here. Very, very different. Also look how some of those larger clumps starting to fall off the surface, where over here on Primus, it's really, really sticking. So you get this big initial layer of pulling it off and then it slows down. But you can also see the difference here between the two of them of how they're really dripping off the surface. Just very different foam here compared to the two. So we'll let this sit here, let it eat. I'm not going to do the bottom rinse up. If you guys, potentially somebody was like, I don't know why you do that. Typically that's what companies recommend with pre-washes, rinsing bottom up. I never really do that. I always rinse top down. The whole rationale for that is if you miss a spot, you can more easily see it. Yeah, we're professional detailers here. I think we're going to be okay with rinsing, but still very, very different types of snow foam here. All right, guys, we're coming up now on about 4.5, almost 5 minutes with both of these products sitting on here. Still starting to get somewhat to the same point. You can still see how the premise clings over here, just very different. So I'm going to go through, rinse this top to bottom. We'll start with premise since that went on first. We'll rinse that down, try and keep it fair to not get the products on either side here as much as we can. We'll dry this and compare. All right, so we've rinsed this now, we've dried it, and I can already tell you guys there are some big differences here. So, as you know, split this straight down the middle. Now this is hard to pick up on camera, but I want you to focus on my hand there. Look at the water spots. So this is neve. Do you guys see something there? Yeah, big difference. So that tells me very, very clearly that the premise with the alkaline bump in it has more overall cleaning power than neve. Now, let's look at this down here. And I will say it clearly did a pretty decent job. It really got a lot of that initial layer of dirt and grime, and then those heavier mineral deposits. This car really needs a full Car Pro D-scale on it to get off all those really nasty mineral deposits. Probably really needs a polish, but this is a car we've leased. We don't necessarily really crazy care about, so that's why it's fun to have this car for testing. But even just looking at the paint, it's going to be next to impossible. I don't think it's going to show up. Well, you can still clearly see quite a bit of water spotting there. If I move this over here, it is just substantially cleaner. So I will definitely tell you, side by side, if I am looking for the best pre-wash, I would definitely say Premise 2.0 is getting a lot more done. Now again, go back to the topic of if you have a fully ceramic coated car, do you necessarily need to blast it every single wash with an alkaline pre-wash? No, I would definitely tell you this definitely does a good job yet again at cleaning the surface. Is it perfect? No, but it is pH neutral. So naturally over time, it's not going to be as harsh on that coating. It's going to be a lot easier to use out in the sunshine. So if you're doing more maintenance wash styles, this to me over here on the neve does make a lot of sense. But again, really different, distinct cleaning power differences there. I mean, just looking at the still accumulation of dirt and grime over here versus here, yeah, it's slightly different, but it is definitely cleaner over there on the premise side, rinsing them exactly the same way. So now I want to see how it does on organic material, i.e. bugs. Let's head to the front end. All right, really interesting to look at pre-washes on the front end with a lot of bugs. All these little dimples, you can see where bugs are actually sitting. Now again, looking side by side here, starting to look similar. The biggest difference, I just want to show this to you. Look in the light source here. So Premise 2.0, move over here. You can see how much drier this soap is. Just very, very different technology in them. All right, well, this is actually kind of interesting because I think these are even closer together than they were on the back end in terms of dirt and grime. I feel like with bugs, pretty evenly split. So let's look over here at the Primus side. You can still see quite a few sitting on here. Again, this is why you fully ceramic coat your car instead of doing sealants. Bugs just come off 1,000 times easier. I'm telling you, is a massive difference. Coming over here to Neve, I would definitely say we've got the same amount of bugs in general. So I wouldn't conclusively say that the alkaline version was better than the pH neutral version in this particular case. I would put these both okay. Again, this car, the protection on it is really degraded, and this car needs a big refresh. But it was really interesting to see the differences. Again, over here, Primus, still bugs. Over here, Neve, still bugs. So I wouldn't conclusively say from the front end here that one is better than another. I actually think they're very much quite even between the two. All right, guys, so let's wrap this video up with some final thoughts. And I think coming out of this, I don't necessarily have a conclusive one is better than another. I think they both have their place in a detailing arsenal. I personally think from the test we saw on the rear end of the car, although not a completely and absolutely disgusting vehicle like we'd see in the winter, there was a substantial difference. So my feelings is if we redo this test in the winter time, I get more experience playing with Neve versus Primus over here, we're going to see an even wider gap in the amount of cleaning power. Now, I'm still very impressed with the cleaning power of this. I would absolutely be more inclined to use this on a weekly basis than hitting my car every single week for a maintenance wash with an alkaline snow foam. Now, it might be the case of, hey, you can do this on a weekly basis, but it's not going to do super deep, crazy cleaning, where that's where this is going to come in. So I do like the concept behind that. And again, the rationale of using less aggressive chemicals to me always makes more sense. Use the least aggressive method to get the best possible outcome you are trying to achieve. I think that'd be pretty interesting. The other question that I have, if you guys want to see this, I will absolutely make this video when we get this car filthy. We're actually heading on a road trip, 4,000 miles in this car, which is why I'm cleaning this thing up now. Maybe when we get back, it'll be completely disgusting. Maybe we do this versus a traditional contact wash shampoo, something like DIY Detail Incredible Suds, something like Adam's Mega Foam, and see how these compare to a traditional pH neutral wash that is meant to be slick, still have good cleaning power, but not necessarily meant to be used as a pre-wash. And I'll leave you off with the final thing here. Please, companies, think about your marketing, and also folks who are buying products, make sure you are double checking what you are actually buying. The SDS on the Geon foam is absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. But also to the companies out there, please give us easier dilutions. This whole joke that I dealt with today with Neve, I do not understand. Every single video I watched on their website, their YouTube channel said to use it in a foam cannon, and they showed using a foam cannon. This is not some confusion of like, oh, you're using it in an IK foamer, that's what it should be. They're using it at a least aggressive dilution ratio than in a nebula sprayer. That makes zero sense. And then they have all these other ones, which they never show, they never explain, and I had to go on some random Australian website to figure out what's what there. That's really weird to me. I don't understand it. Maybe I'm making a too big deal of it, but how hard is it to put it on the back of the bottle like you did here with Primus? Anyways, I'll leave you off there. Have a good one. We'll see you in the next one soon. Bye-bye.